Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimmy Jane and today I'm going to present to you my top picks for the national costume segment of Miss Cosmo 2024. Let's get straight into today's video. First in my top picks is Miss Australia. Now, I tried very hard not to be biased here. However, I thought that her national costume was absolutely breathtaking. Not only that, I thought that she worked the costume very well on the runway and I liked her unique poses at the end. My only feedback would be though to hold those poses a little bit longer for the cameras. However, the cameras did capture some incredible shots of her. It's honestly one of the most standout performances of the national costume section for me, and I'm really excited to see how she goes for the rest of this competition. Okay, next in my top picks is Bangladesh. Now, her costume is not as extravagant as some of the other ladies in the competition. However, her facial expressions were perfection. She was really working the camera and the audience. I thought that she looked incredible on stage. She had great facial expressions and connection with the audience. And also she took her time and she really worked her costume. Like, she really had a lot of mastery over the skirt and her turns and her spins. So while it wasn't the most, grand costume of the bunch, I thought that her performance actually really stood out on stage. So well done to Bangladesh. Next we have Bolivia. Now, I really liked Bolivia's costume because it was giving this strong female power sort of vibe. She looked kind of like a warrior of the sun or something like that. I'm not really sure what the significance is. However, I thought the costume was unique. I liked the color. The gold really stood out against the blue backdrop, which is, Miss Cosmo's colors. Next, we have Cambodia. Now, this performance was an absolute standout. This was show-stopping and it honestly took my breath away. I was not expecting Cambodia's commitment to national costume. Not only did she have this really cool smoking wand, which is definitely not the correct term, it looked like incense or like she was burning something on stage, which is amazing that they allow contestants to do things like that. But just looking at her performance, the way she was working the camera was second to none. The way that she was really leaning into those movements, it was honestly like she was putting on a show, and that takes a lot of confidence to really lean into your performance. That was the best performance I think we had from the Miss Cosmo National Costume Competition, but we do have some more ladies to review, so let's keep going. Okay, next we have Chile. So Chile has made my list because I thought that the way she worked her national costume was great. It made her look good. It was quite, I'm not going to say the word daring, but it showed all of her legs. It was almost like a leotard, plus she had the beautiful wings. And I thought while it was more potentially on the revealing side, especially for a country like Vietnam, it showed how tall she was and how statuesque she was, and it made her look fantastic. It was definitely a costume that flattered her body, and I think that the way she worked the runway really worked in her favor. Plus, her eye contact and her facial expressions at the end of the runway were fantastic. She's obviously had some great coaching. She really exuded confidence and she was really, really locking eyes on the camera and on the audience, which I loved. And I can't wait to see what she brings to the rest of Miss Cosmo. Next on my list, we have the Cote d'Ivoire, who gave an absolutely exquisite performance. Her costume was wonderful. I'm pretty sure it was in the colors of her flag, the Cote d'Ivoire flag. Not only that, her eye contact and facial expression coming down the runway, it was amazing. She was very elegant and sophisticated. And then she did this reveal where she took off her headdress and then she kept going. And I just thought, wow, this was a really fantastic performance from the Cote d'Ivoire. I expect nothing less and I cannot wait to see what else she has to bring for Miss Cosmo. Next on my list is Ghana. I thought Ghana gave a wonderful performance on stage. Now, her costume was not as extravagant, but it was more traditional and it really showed off her long legs. Plus, I like that she did not rush her walk on stage. She also gave a bit of a dance at the end of the runway before snapping back into a really kind of sultry walk. And I just thought she had great facial expressions and connection with the camera and the audience. And she herself really shined on stage in this performance. So well done to Ghana. Next on my list is Honduras. Again, she's in my top picks for national finals. When she came down the runway, I was really captivated by her facial expressions. She had the smiles, she was making great eye contact, and she had kind of like a fierceness about her, which really matched the costume. Again, it sort of gave off a bit of a warrior vibe, and I thought that the way she moved when she got to the end of the runway was really beautiful, and it really showed her confidence and her skill commanding the stage. So well done to Honduras. Next on my list is Hong Kong. Hong Kong gave such a graceful performance. I love what she was wearing, and I loved how she had these beautiful, elegant fans, and she worked them seamlessly into her routine. She was doing spins, which honestly, I feel like I would have been so dizzy and would have thrown up if I did that many spins, but she did such a good job on stage. I thought it was really fun to watch the fabric moving, and overall, I thought it was a fantastic performance. Next on my list is India. So she was wearing quite a unique costume, being mindful that we have seen costumes like this of late in other pageants. However, I thought that she gave a very elegant performance, and she did definitely stand out to me on stage, but I think that this outfit and this national costume almost held her back a little bit, because I could see that she definitely was like, maybe she has a dancing background because she moved her arms, you know, in a really talented and skillful way. But I would have liked to have seen more of her walk, and I think that maybe it could have been a missed opportunity for her to showcase her prowess of the stage, or on the stage, I should say. But she is in my top list because I thought that, you know, she looked very beautiful. I love the headdress, I love the hair and makeup. But yes, hopefully she'll get a chance to show us, you know, her command of her walk and the stage in the next segments of the competition. Next we have Indonesia. Firstly, wow, what an enchanting costume. The way that the extra set of arms were coming out, I thought it looked really cool. Also, it looked like an extremely heavy costume, and like it would make most people fall backwards. So she did a great job commanding the stage with her walk and her arm movements. I thought that she looked really beautiful, and the costume really caught my attention. So I'm excited to see what else she's got to bring. Next we have Ireland. Wow, the first thing that comes to mind is the word fierce. She had a more simple costume. It wasn't totally extravagant, didn't have things coming out the back, but she looked incredible. She literally looked like a fierce warrior. Her facial expression, the pose she made at the end of the runway, I was like, where have you been in this competition? This has put Ireland on my radar. I thought she did such a great job. Great performance. Next on my list is Malaysia. She had a fantastic choice of costume. I loved how she had the really long nails. She took her time walking down the runway, which might have been because she wanted to have a moment on stage, or maybe because the costume was extremely heavy. Either or, she looked great. I like that she didn't rush. I like that she made great facial expressions with the audience and the camera, and she really, you know, took her time in each of her poses on stage. And I like that her costume was quite, you know, traditional and extravagant. So I think a great performance from Malaysia. Next on my list is Mexico. Oh my goodness, again, Mexico shows that you don't need to have the most extravagant, heavy or expensive national costume to give a great performance, because she had, you know, more of a simple designed costume. It's more of a traditional sort of dress. However, she danced. She literally danced on stage. Talk about confident. And I just thought that, wow, that captures your attention. That's different, because not every contestant is going to come out on stage and do a dance. And I was hooked. I was like, oh my goodness, she's dancing on stage. And I just think it shows this, I don't know, it's very alluring. It shows the confidence. I think she was even dancing in time to the music from what I was watching. So she is a standout performer. And between the sashing ceremony and now this, I'm thinking Mexico is a very strong contender in this competition. Next we have New Zealand. Now, New Zealand had a really mesmerizing costume. I thought it suited her perfectly. It was really beautiful. The only thing I will say though is that She walked quite slowly down the runway, but it didn't look like it was because it was a part of her routine. It looked like the costume was really heavy, and I think it was moving a little bit on her as well. The other thing I'll say is when she made her way down the runway for her final poses, I would have liked to see more of a change up in facial expressions. To be honest, it looked like she was concentrating quite hard on carrying the costume. So I don't know, it's tough for the ladies. They do have really heavy costumes and they can't move too quickly, otherwise I don't know, they could trip or things might get shaken up too much. But I think it's important, I guess, when picking a costume, pick something that stands out, but that's not going to prevent you from shining yourself on stage, whether that be with showcasing, you know, your ability to pose and walk, but also your facial expressions, because you need to be showing that you can change it up from a serious look, but also what you want to be able to smile as well and turn and all the rest of it. So overall, a great performance. She's still in my, you know, top list of contestants, but I think that, yeah, maybe this costume might have held her back just a little bit. Next on my list is Nigeria. Oh, I love Nigeria's performance. Again, she was smiling, she danced down the stage. I could hear the crowd cheering in the background. I think that she was a bit of a crowd favorite. You could just see that she was really enjoying herself on stage. A very tall woman as well, even without the heels. I thought that she gave such a great performance. Again, maybe I'm favoring it when the contestants give a bit of a dance, I'm not sure. Not that you have to, national costume, of course, but I guess if it's related to, you know, your country and your culture and traditions, I think it's great to bring that to the stage to showcase, you know, your culture and your country and where you've come from. I love that she had a dance and then she continued with the runway walk and then picked it up and then left the stage. I just thought it was fantastic. Next on my list is Peru. Now, I think Peru's execution was absolutely flawless here. She was wearing a dazzling pink national costume. She managed to incorporate a spin when she was coming down the runway, and her poses at the end of the runway were magnificent. She did some great poses with her arms, and I just thought her entire performance was totally captivating. Next on my list is Philippines. Now, wow, she gave such a majestic performance, and that costume, she definitely did look like a mermaid. I loved the oranges and the yellows. It was very complimentary. I thought that the whole costume, top to bottom, was exquisite. She gave such a great stage performance, the way she used the costume, and her facial expressions were on point. She really was working the crowd and the camera. I just thought that was a very flawless performance, and I can see why Philippines is a crowd favorite. Next on my list is Peru. Okay, Peru has made my list because she gave such a radiant performance on stage. I think that her costume was an example of being not too much and not too little. It really complemented her and her walk. I really like how I think she had two rods going through the cape, so she was able to work the fabric without too much effort, and I think that meant that it didn't take away from her walk and her posing, so I thought that she really shined on stage for her performance. Next on my list is Spain. Oh my gosh, I loved Spain's performance. Again, a much more simple, like when I say simple, I mean, you know, she didn't have huge things coming off her back like wings or anything. She was wearing a white dress that was more traditional, like for a dancer or something, and her performance just blew me away because it was the face, it was the facial expressions, like she was telling a story, the way she came down the runway, plus she got to incorporate some dance and she had some quick movements, and the way she flicked her dress, I was like, oh my goodness. It was just, yeah, it was a great showcase that she has more skills than just, I suppose, walking on stage. She obviously had a great command of her body as like a dancer, and I just thought it was a really captivating performance. And again, just goes to show you don't need to have the most expensive national costume on stage. It's more about the performance factor, I think, in national costume. It's probably the one time that it's not solely based on having the best walk and the best poses. While I still think those are really important, national costume is a chance to showcase your culture, and I think a part of that is telling a story, and have, like, if there is dance, a part of your culture is showcasing that. I just think, yeah, Spain did a great job. Next on my list is Venezuela. Now, I'm smiling because her performance was epic, okay? So I've spoken about how the performance and storytelling factor is kind of important. But she did all the things. Not only did she really like get into her performance, and she was, and those boots would not have been easy to give the performance she gave in, and she managed it. But not only did she commit to, I guess, the storytelling aspect with the facial expressions and the way she was stomping and coming down the runway, but also the costume looked heavy, and she had, you know, feathers coming out the back, but she also had the sort of like the armor at the front part of the costume on her arms. So it was a full experience, and I just thought it was the commitment for me and the facial expressions and the way she came down the runway that I just thought that was memorable. And that's what you want to do at a pageant, is you want to leave an impression and you want to stand out. So well done, Venezuela. Next on my list is Vietnam. Now, Vietnam had quite an extravagant costume, and I'm confused as to how the chariot was brought out, because obviously it could have been you know, the staging staff who may have brought out the chariot before she went on, but I'm pretty sure, listening to the audio, it weighed 50 kilos, so I don't think she would have been able to carry that out alone. So I thought that was quite interesting. I thought that she gave a great performance. She had a very exquisite costume. She really worked it. Great facial expressions, and I think Vietnam is one to watch for Miss Cosmo. That concludes my top pick recap of the Miss Cosmo 2024 National Costume segment, but stay tuned because I will be recapping the upcoming preliminaries and of course international competition on my YouTube channel, so don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.